So a year ago, when I heard Precision Pro was going to come out with a GPS rangefinder, they were essentially going to create a completely new product, a new market. There were all sorts of technological issues. I basically was like, yeah, that sounds cool, but you're not going to be able to pull it off. Small little company trying to essentially create an entirely new market for a product? Yeah, it's not gonna work. The only thing out there that's even similar to this is the Garmin Z82, and that's like Garmin. Their whole business is based on GPS products. So when the Precision Pro R1 rangefinder actually came out and was actually good, like really good, I was kind of shocked. So, you want to know how good it really is? Then keep watching. That's what we're talking about in today's video. So real quick, just to give you background on who I am, my name is Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of Breaking 80, where for the last 10 years, I've been reviewing golf products, specifically golf rangefinders. I've reviewed like 24 of these things, so it's safe to say I know a thing or two. You can use the code BREAKING80 at precisionprogolf.com if you do decide you want to pick one of these up. I will earn a small commission on that, but you'll also save some money. It doesn't affect my review. As you'll see, I do have some criticisms of this, which I'm going to tell you about later in the video. But if you don't want to buy it through my affiliate link, then no problem. Go to precisionprogolf.com and you can do that as well. And now, let's get on with this thing. Okay, so Precision Pro's been around for, I don't know, 5-ish years, and their first product I reviewed was the NX7, and it was fine. It was a decent budget rangefinder. Nothing to write home about, nothing special. It was a little slow, but it got the job done. Their next product was the NX9. It improved on the NX7 in just about every way. This was kind of one of my go-to recommendations, and still is one of my go-to recommendations in that kind of $200, a little over $200 price range. It's a very, very good device. But with the R1, you weren't just trying to make a better rangefinder, you were essentially trying to create an entirely new type of product. You've now got to get GPS information. You've got to design an app that works and pairs well and is easy to use. There are all sorts of technological issues that you're running into by creating this product. And so when I received it a few months ago, let's just say that I'm a little skeptical. It's a rangefinder company. You're not Apple, you're not a tech company, you're not even Garmin, who specializes in GPS. You're just a small group of people that makes pretty good rangefinders, and I had my doubts that they would be able to make that transition over to a full-on tech company. But the good news is, they did. And it's really good. All right, so first impressions of the R1. Now, Precision Pro, never done a ton with their packaging, nothing like super special with the box or anything like that, but you get the R1 and all of a sudden you're like, oh, you stepped things up a notch. You put a little bit of time and effort and money into making this feel like a high-end product. So immediately, I was pleasantly surprised with just the box and packaging and the feel and everything. All right, so when you get it out of the box, immediately you're like, man, this is a pretty good-looking rangefinder. This is the best-looking device I think Precision Pro has designed, and honestly, I think it's one of the better-looking rangefinders on the market. Size-wise, they nailed it. The Precision Pro NX9 was a little small for me. The buttons were a little bit close together, and the R1 just, it feels better in my hand. If I had one minor critique, I found, the NX9, the buttons were a little too close together for me. The R1, the buttons are slightly too far apart for me, but, you adjust your hand a little bit and really isn't that big of a deal. And I honestly thought the thing was fully waterproof based on its build, but I believe it's rated at IP54, which means it's not fully waterproof, but if you get it splashed with water or dust or whatever, it's going to be fine. I honestly would not be concerned about this in the rain or on the golf course. I think it's going to be totally fine, even if it's not rated to be totally waterproof. One thing you'll notice is they've got their, slope button here, so it turns slope mode on or off, and it works really well. It looks good. They, integrated it into the design really well, and I always like to see that. So overall, great looking device. Very, very excited by it, but again, until you get it out on the golf course, you kind of wonder, it's like, is it actually going to do what it says it's going to do, or is it going to let me down? So before we go any further with this review, we have to talk about the Precision Pro Golf app, because in order to utilize the GPS functions in this, you've got to pair it with the app on your smartphone. The good news is setting it up via Bluetooth is super simple, super easy. Literally took me just a couple minutes to be up and running, and honestly, I think one of my biggest surprises is just how good the app works. It's very well designed, it's very easy to use, and considering this is Precision Pro's first foray into app development, I'm really pleasantly surprised. It's going to be really interesting to see how this ecosystem evolves. They also have the Ace Smart Speaker, which uses this, so you can literally like hit a button on the speaker and it'll tell you distances while you're listening to your tunes on the course. We'll have a whole separate review on that coming up, but that all uses the same golf app. Okay, so what does this actually do that's special? You've got it fired up, the app works great, it pairs great, but what does that actually mean? So you turn it on, you look through the rangefinder as you would, you hit the button, you get a laser distance, just like you would with any other rangefinder. Well, you hit this button up here, and all of a sudden it slightly changes your view and it gives you the distance to the front, back, and center of the green in GPS. So not only can you use the laser to get an exact position to the flag, but if you're trying to figure out what your clubs are, you can actually get distances to the back of the green, the front of the green, with just the click of a button. If you want more precise distances to hazards and things like that, you can open up the app, and that's got all of that information just like any other GPS golf app would. And honestly, it's a nice companion to using this. Using the GPS features, I honestly expected a lot of hiccups. I expected, data to be slow. I expected it to not load. And honestly, in 3 rounds with this thing, it's been rock solid. All the GPS distances seem completely accurate. It loads immediately, it pairs seamlessly, transfers information back and forth, and it literally just works so well. I am so impressed by this device, and we haven't even gotten into some of the best features about it yet. Now, some of you might be wondering, if you're in the market for a $300-ish rangefinder, is this one worth getting? GPS features aside, how does it work just as a straight up rangefinder? The answer is it works wonderfully. The optics in here are the best Precision Pro has ever had. I don't think it's quite at the level of Bushnell or Nikon, but it's really close. You look through the viewfinder, it's super clear, it's super crisp, it's a big step up over their previous devices. It's also really fast. You click the button, it finds the flag, it gives you the vibrate, away you go. So functioning just as a regular rangefinder, this thing is very, very good. So even if you don't want to pair your phone, even if you don't want to deal with the app, if you just want to use it as a straight rangefinder, this thing's great, and on its own, take away all the smart features, it's the best rangefinder Precision Pro has made yet. If you are in the market for a smart rangefinder, you might be wondering, how does that compare to the Garmin Approach Z82, which is really, as far as I know, these are kind of the only 2 GPS rangefinders currently on the market. ShotScope, I know, has got one that's coming out very soon that I'm excited to test and see how it works. But how do these 2 compare? Well, honestly, they're very different devices. So first off, the Garmin is almost double the price. This thing's $600. This is $319, $299 if you use our Breaking 80 code. So you're kind of playing in 2 different pools. This uses a video screen, essentially, when you're looking through it. So when you're looking through it, it's kind of like looking through a mirrorless camera lens as opposed to a DSLR. So you're not actually looking at the optical viewfinder, you're looking at a screen. This, typical rangefinder, typical optics, so kind of apples and oranges a little bit there. The problem with the Garmin is the screen isn't necessarily super clear. You get a ton of unique information. The GPS info you get here is much more robust than the GPS information you're going to get with the Precision Pro. There's a much bigger learning curve with this. Once you get it figured out, it's a really cool piece of tech, but you're going to be spending a lot more time looking in this just because of all the extra features, the map overlay, you can keep score in this thing, gives you a ton of information. Whereas this, a little bit more basic, but it's going to function much more like a regular rangefinder, so it's going to be faster, but you also get the benefit of those GPS features without having to spend the entire round doing this, because that gets kind of annoying. So what about other cool features of the R1? Well, first off, it's got the magnet on the back, so if you like to ride in a cart, boom, you stick it there, away you go. But how many times have you stuck your cool, fancy, expensive rangefinder to your cart and then forgotten it? We've all done that at some point, or at least I certainly have. I know multiple people that have lost rangefinders and not gotten them back because they were stupid and left them on a cart. Well, one of the cool features of the R1 is, let's call it Find My Rangefinder. You know how if you have an iPhone, you've got an app that's Find My iPhone, and it'll ping you and beep and tell you exactly where it is if you lose it? Well, that's what this does for your rangefinder. If you get too far away from the rangefinder, it'll ping you and say, hey, you might have lost this thing. And it'll show you exactly where it is. So you will never lose your rangefinder again. I think that feature alone makes this worthwhile because I know people that have spent hundreds of dollars on new rangefinders because they were stupid and lost them. So props Precision Pro for thinking that one through. So another cool feature of these GPS rangefinders, and specifically the R1, are some of the slope features that it gives you. So if you've got slope mode with the typical rangefinder, if the pin's below you, you click the flag, it'll adjust for that, and it'll tell you that maybe your shot's gonna play 4 yards shorter than what the actual distance is. But with the GPS data, you're getting a lot more information. So for instance, with this, it will also take into account wind. So with the wind assist feature, you can see that the wind is blowing 12 miles per hour in one direction, and the slope will account for that. I don't know for sure if this one takes into account elevation, but that's also something that I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if it was part of their slope calculations. So speaking of slope calculations, this also has another trick up its sleeve. Imagine if in an app you had all of your preferred layup distances that were tailored to your shot and your distances with your clubs. Well, that's essentially what MySlope does. So what you do to figure out your MySlope is you go into a club fitter or you get a launch monitor and you hit a handful of balls with each of your clubs. It's then going to take all that information and the averages to figure out, okay, what is your distance with your 7-iron or with your 8-iron? And then it's going to make smarter recommendations with its slope feature based on your actual shot data. That's pretty freaking cool. My only issue with it is, well, most of us don't have access to a launch monitor. And even if you do have access to a launch monitor, it may not be accurate enough, or it might not feature some of the data sets you needed to accurately calculate your MySlope. I think this is a feature that's going to be really cool if club fitters and club pros really get on board with it so they can help people at their stores or at their clubs or at their facilities calculate this. But for the average person, if you don't have easy access to a launch monitor, it's kind of a pain to get it all set up. And if you're not a great golfer and you're very inconsistent with all your shots, it may not lead to the most accurate data. But it's really cool to see them thinking farther ahead of how they can change the game, how they can do something unique. And I think over the course of the coming years, we're going to really see this take off. So as you can tell, I think the R1 is great. But as with most things in life, it's not perfect. There is one really big issue I have with this device, the USB-C port. Normally, you would open up a little door and there'd be a battery in there, and that battery's probably gonna last you years. This stays in your golf bag, you pull it out when you need it, it works. This, because of all the GPS capabilities, is actually charged via USB-C, so it doesn't have a removable battery. The battery is going to be good for about 10 hours, so every couple rounds, that means you need to remember to take this out of your bag, take it into your house, charge it, remember to pick it up, remember to put it back in your bag, and away you go. For many of you, this is not going to be an issue because you're used to tech, you're used to golf devices, you're used to charging things. It's no big deal. You can even plug it into your car and charge it there to make it even easier on you. But for me, I'm just kind of a forgetful person. So having to charge this every single time I use it, I've already a couple times forgotten to do it, and then I find myself without a rangefinder on the course. So that's the big drawback to this. So even if it works great as just a straight up rangefinder, if it's not charged, you won't even be able to use it as a straight up rangefinder. So that is the caveat. That's the catch. For many of you, not a big one. You're like, cool, that's no problem at all. I kind of like the fact that I don't have to worry about buying a replaceable battery and changing it on occasion. All right, so final thoughts on the Precision Pro R1. It's freaking awesome. For under 300 bucks, this is one of, if not the best rangefinder on the market. You've got just about every feature imaginable. It's got great optics, it's very fast, it's accurate, it's got the magnet, it's got the built-in Find My Rangefinder feature, it's got the built-in GPS stuff, it's got the companion app, it's got the MySlope technology. It's great. Like the only, really the only knock I have on it is having to charge it with the USB-C cord. And if that doesn't bother you, then just run out and get this. You're gonna be really happy. And if you have small hands, the buttons might be a little far apart for you, but again, that's a very easy fix. So if you do decide to pick this up, make sure you use the code BREAKING80 with 80 spelled out. That's gonna get you 20 bucks off. And if you like this video, maybe do the old thumbs up, maybe hit the subscribe button. We've got new video reviews, well, on occasion. Whenever I feel like making them. And if you want to see a direct comparison to this and the Z82, which are, the other major GPS rangefinder, let me know and I'll see what I can put together for you. But until then, I'm going to go edit this video and get it live for you. So I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.